The last 2 years have seen a shift in stakeholder demands for transparent communication and reform from law enforcement agencies. The way police departments communicate with the public and with internal employees has an impact on public confidence and employees' perception of the organization, especially if they don't feel supported. A detailed study of the way communication from these agencies is managed can lead to the implementation of successful strategic communication practices and progress towards repairing and addressing damaged public perception, employee morale, and effective change management. So first, let's cover what strategic communication is. Hallahan states that strategic communication can be defined as the purposeful use of communication by an organization to fulfill its mission. Successful communication should take an intentional, integrated approach that takes into account the varying stakeholders and their needs. Ensuring communication strategies are in place and used consistently can help organizations manage crises and develop organizational resilience. Next, we need to identify the varying stakeholders. In a 2011 publication from the Department of Justice, Strategic Communication Practices, a Toolkit for Police Executives, they identified 6 groups: elected officials, community leaders, neighborhood leaders, public interest groups, non-English speaking community members, and employees. When identifying recommendations, the first step is to analyze the current state. While most large traditional organizations have an internal communications person in their leadership structure, police departments vary in size and often do not have dedicated communication practitioners. For example, while the New York Police Department employs 36,000 officers, about 75% of police departments in the United States employ fewer than 25. Smaller departments may not even have public information officers available to focus on media relations, which can then leave communication diluted and often dependent on the chief or sheriff. When it comes to internal communication, CompStat is a management model created by the New York Police Department in 1994, which is commonly used in police departments across the United States and even in other countries to review crime statistics. Crime statistics are used as the measure of police effectiveness. CompStat meetings bring together police leadership to review crime data, failures, best practices, and motivate accountability and learning. The goal is for the information to reach upper, mid-level, and street-level officers and to direct their actions when fighting crime. CompStat meetings typically only involved ranked officers, leading to diluted messaging reaching street-level officers. In UXL's 2014 study, when ranked officers were asked why street-level officers were not involved in CompStat meetings, a ranked officer responded, "In fact, the director asked us to bring people, but I guess we did not want to bring them to CompStat where we're yelled at." While CompStat is one of the most frequent forums for internal communication of organizational mission and changes, there are various gaps that need to be addressed, including participants, cultural pressures, and the dissemination of action items. So the toolkit for police executives from the DOJ also provides steps for creating a strategic plan for communication. So the first step that they identified is that there needs to be an analysis of the current state through research, SWOT analysis, and direct feedback. Next, goals and objectives along with stakeholders need to be identified. From there, a communication strategy can be created and implemented. Once these strategies and steps are complete, there needs to be a continued analysis of the strategy with adjustments made as needed. So key pieces of internal communication strategy include making sure that messages are aligned and consistent, that there's a platform tailored to employees who work 24-hour shift operations, and employees really have to feel like they have a voice. One recommendation from Hartman was to utilize talks with the chief forums or town halls to establish two-way communication for officers. Social media is another area that needs to be reviewed and monitored closely. Community members may see police department profiles as primary sources of information, giving police departments the ability to use them to inoculate viewers against misinformation during a crisis. Outside of a crisis, social media platforms can be used to share important crime prevention information, celebrate officer achievements and community outreach, and provide a platform for two-way communication. Employee profiles, while personal, can also shape community stakeholder perceptions and their peers' perceptions, even when departments have social media use policies in place. Through the recommendations discussed, police departments must place an emphasis on strategic communication as they navigate the current landscape. Additional case studies over the next few years will provide insight on the effectiveness of organizations who are able to manage and change the way that they engage their stakeholders. Since the last guide for strategic communication practices was published in 2011, an updated edition could provide new insights. The implementation of integrated mission-driving communication is feasible with the appropriate buy-in and support from leadership, and the effects of managing this communication to be intentional can have positive outcomes for both police officers and the communities that they seek to serve and protect.